All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for coming to Unmasking Scams to Safeguard Older Adults. My name is Carey Kyler. I am the Senior Director of Insights for AARP Services Incorporated. How many of you knew that AARP had a for-profit division? Yay! Okay, I have 3 winners over here. We do have a for-profit division, and what we focus on is the commercial relationships, so the commercial benefits that AARP members receive when they're in a part of AARP. But I'm not the one you need to be thinking about. It's Kathy Stokes over here. So happy to be joined by Kathy. She is the Senior Director of our fraud prevention programs. I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you. Before I tell you Kathy's official bio, let me just say she's a rock star. Every time I talk to you, I learn something new, and she has become one of the foremost experts on fraud and scams and really paved the way within AARP and made this a signature issue for AARP, and it's so important. So thank you for everything that you do.
So no pressure.
No pressure. No pressure. And now I'm going to read your official bio, so even more pressure. Her official bio is this. Kathy Stokes is a nationally recognized leader in the fraud arena. As Senior Director of Fraud Prevention Programs with the AARP Fraud Watch Network, Kathy leads AARP's social mission work to educate older adults on the risks that fraud represent to their financial security. Since 2019, she and her team have expanded AARP's leadership in this space by mounting a national campaign to change the narrative on how we talk about fraud victims and guiding an effort to fundamentally transform how our country addresses fraud. Rock star. Thank you for being here, Kathy. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
So before we get started, we have so much to cover. We were talking about this over breakfast, and we have 10 pounds of amazing things that we need to shove into about a 5-pound bag. So we're going to try to get through everything that we can. We're going to spend 20-ish minutes, 20 to 22 minutes talking, but we want to leave some time at the end for questions. So if you've got questions, jot them down and be prepared to ask, because Kathy is here right now, and she is the one to talk to ask the questions of. So we kind of are breaking this into three parts today. And the first place where we want to start is kind of the problem. Let's set the stage here. This is a burning platform. Fraud and scams is a huge problem for everyone. And we're focusing on older adults here, but it impacts all of us. It impacts everybody. Yes. But particularly older adults are increasingly getting taken advantage of more. You and I talked about younger people are more often, there's more of them that are being taken advantage of scams, but older people get taken for a lot more money, right? Because of the coffers and the size of the pool that there is to draw from. So why don't we start kind of with the basics, just to ground everybody. How bad is this problem, and who's behind it?
So the problem is profound. It is not an overstatement to say that fraud is the #1 crime around the globe. There are countries that have already said this. We haven't quite said it yet in the United States, but the numbers don't lie. We are at a crisis level, and we need a whole of society solution to solve for it. The Federal Trade Commission is sort of the agency of record on how much fraud is out there, and they're able to report on what's reported, either to them or law enforcement, some FBI, AARP, Better Business Bureau. And their data from 2024 says that consumers, all ages, lost $12.8 billion to fraud in that single year. And you're thinking, oh my God, $12.8 billion? Hold on, because in October, they came back at that number, and they've done this for 3 years in a row now, and said, yeah, well, we understand that underreporting is so significant, and they've determined that somewhere between 2% and 6.7% of people who are victims of these crimes ever report. So they extrapolated that 12.8 billion to 196 billion, with a B, billion dollars in a single year, leaving the American economy and retirement savings accounts across the country.
Can I just check in? Everyone here, Kathy, okay? We're good? Okay. I wasn't sure because...
You want me to be a little louder?
No, I was just thinking if you could pull your microphone up just a little bit. Maybe we can hear a little bit better.
How about that? Is that a little better?
Yeah, that's better. So that that figure that you quoted that's reported is really just a drop in the bucket. I mean, it's like nothing. It's actually nothing compared to what the actuality is. And we could talk more about this later, but one of the things that we talked about is that victims don't report because they're embarrassed, right? Like they are the ones that are made to feel like they were dumb for falling for this. So you have this vastly underreported crime wave that is going on because people are not talking about it.
Yeah.
Who exactly is behind all of this?
So we probably all have this notion of the guy in his mom's basement making the phone calls, lurking on the internet, and I'm sure he still exists in some basement somewhere. But the biggest players in this space are transnational organized crime syndicates, and they're based all over the world. I mean, in Jamaica, the big syndicates are doing lottery scams. In Mexico, you might be surprised to know that the New Gen Jalisco cartel, the one that's pumping fentanyl and meth over our border, they're funding that in part with timeshare resale scams that are targeting older consumers who are trying to get rid of timeshares. Probably the most egregious that we know of right now is happening in Southeast Asia, and it's basically Chinese mafia. And they went in at the beginning of the pandemic into Cambodia and Laos and took over casinos that were sitting idle and turned them into scam centers. And they set up a specific scam, which I will call financial grooming. They talk about it very differently. But basically, get as many people out there, getting to as many people, basically in the US and Europe, to develop over time trust relationships and then get them to invest in crypto. And the whole investment is fake. They're going after every dollar that they can get from the victims. And it's in the millions and millions of dollars that people are losing. And the really hard part to know about this is the frontline scammers have been made to believe that they're going to a great new job in Cambodia, IT or customer service, and they're enslaved to do this 18 hours a day. We think that maybe there's somewhere around 150,000 of these people there now. And think about that, because I think a lot of you are shaking your heads. You've heard of this before, yet we still think there's more than 100,000 people that are stuck in these scams.
Yeah, so these are some of those scams we talked about. Hey, get a great job and, click here, make X dollars a day, and then people end up getting enslaved into doing this.
Yeah, so that's like an employment scam that happens to get those people in place. And then on the other side, you may get those texts like, hey, Jim, are you picking me up from the airport? And you're a nice person. You're going to go, oh, I'm not Jim. Sorry, you have the wrong number. And the guy responds, or the person responds, oh, thank you so much for responding. I don't know, I'm going to get home, and I'm really glad to know. That's all it takes to begin a conversation that builds over time, and we're talking months, sometimes longer, into a trust relationship before that person on the other end, which is not one person, it's dozens, says, hey, you know how I'm living large, right? Because I've got the houses, I've got the cars, you've seen it. I can help you get there. My uncle is an expert, and he's figured out the algorithm for never losing in crypto investments. And that's how it happens. And the person sets themselves up on a cyber exchange or a crypto exchange. They're not sending money to somebody. They're putting it into a system. They're getting money back out over time. But then when their time is come to and they're ready to cash out completely, they end up finding out that it was a total scam.
Well, Kathy, tell us more why these scams work. What's going on, and how do they tap into that and make it work for people?
Yeah, and I'm glad Carey had brought up earlier that we have this tendency to be ashamed if we're a victim or we blame the victims. And I really hope we can sort of disabuse that notion, because victims become victims because a criminal perpetrated a crime against them, and they're using something that they've called the playbook since the beginning of time, from the snake oil salesman up, but now they have the scale and the ability to perfect these scams. And what they're trying to do is get us to react emotionally very quickly. And this isn't the case in all scams, obviously, but I bet 85% of cases, they're coming at us in a way that our reaction in our brains is to bypass logic. It's what our brains have done for 300,000 years. It used to be, we don't really want to sit there and think, is that saber-toothed tiger going to attack me if I stand here? No, we're going past the logic and we're getting into action. That action happens to happen in the emotional part of our brain, the amygdala. And this is scientific. Academics call it the amygdala hijack. Our brains are bypassing logic, not thinking at all and just going to action. And because of that, we have to really sort of rethink how we think and talk about the victims.
So let's go a little bit further, because we were talking earlier over breakfast about how sophisticated these scams are getting, right? Like, it used to be Nigerian princes and hacked credit cards, but now with AI, the misspellings, the things you could spot easily. What's happening now?
Well, they've had technology over the last many years to scale. Also, when all of us ended up going online for everything because of COVID, they had more targets. But they've been able to use technology to scale and now use generative artificial intelligence to perfect. You can make a website out of whole cloth in seconds. You can create deep fakes. You can send out millions of targeted messages to people to get them to take an action. And basically what they're trying to do is to make you believe something that isn't true so that you take an action and they can steal from you. And that's basically
Yeah, and you used the term earlier, social engineering, right? And you told me a really powerful example about deep fakes.
Yeah.
And can you share that with this audience? It was scary, actually.
Yeah, just as we were kind of getting into this Gen AI phase and worrying about deep fakes, a story came out about a transnational company who, a finance guy, gets a call that he needs to be on a video call with his senior leadership. And he gets on this senior leadership call and they tell him that he has to transfer $25 million to XYZ. And this is out of the realm of how they do it. But they're right there on the video telling him, and he did it. It was completely fake. Those people were made out of whole cloth, and the company lost $25 million.
That's terrifying. And it's getting so sophisticated. Your team and your predecessor are all in at AARP. We're looking out for what's happening here. In fact, you were telling me your predecessor went to prisons to learn about how these criminals act and how they think and what they know.
Yeah, some of the most interesting and in-depth research happened in the last maybe 20 years ago. And one of the leaders in that was an AARP state director. His name was Doug Shadell. He's retired, but I brought him back as a contractor because he's just so valuable. But he would go in and conduct interviews with prisoners who at the time were being arrested for being in boiler rooms trying to sell gold coins and investments to older adults. And he listened to thousands of hours of tapes on these investigations. And they basically all said the same thing. They need to get that target into a heightened emotional state because that's when the logic gets bypassed. And then we've developed over time even more of a granular understanding that under the ether that they talk about is really that unexpected contact. It's that 3 o'clock in the morning call Grandma gets from her grandson, and this grandson saying, "Grandma, I'm in so much trouble. Please don't tell Mom and Dad. I'm sitting in jail. I had a DUI. I hit a pregnant woman. She's going to die. I just need to get on the phone with my lawyer, and she's going to tell you what I need to do. Please, Grandma, help me." And Grandma's going, "Oh my God, Mikey, my beloved grandson, is asking me to help him out of this impossible situation. You bet I'm going to help him." She didn't stop and go, "Yeah, I think I'm going to send $10,000 in gift cards to somebody I don't know today." She was trying to help Mikey. And it's those three things that come together that make the scam work in most of the cases. And we talked a little bit about this concept of we have a zillion scams out there, and each scam has 10 red flags. And we all need to know that stuff, but it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
It's exhausting as educators. It's exhausting as consumers. You just sort of throw up your hands, right? So we're trying to bring that conversation, that education up to a higher level. Do y'all remember, maybe it was around second grade public school, where you learned what to do if your clothes caught on fire? Stop, drop, and roll. We were trying to create a stop, drop, and roll for fraud. So fire is a mighty trigger, right? You don't have that single trigger in fraud, But the three things that come at you, you do. It's that unexpected contact, and it's the heightened emotion, and it's urgency. And if we can recognize that, then we can also learn to take what we call an active pause, to take that step back, intentionally stop and think, does this make sense? Mikey was just here last week for dinner. He would have told me if he was going to Mexico. Didn't somebody just write something about this in the AARP magazine? It gives you that chance to reflect on what you might know to end the conversation.
You know, I'm realizing we've got a video that we can show. Can you mind if I pop that on, showing just how...
We have two.
We have two.
The first one
Yeah.
is Jackie.
But you want to do Jackie now?
Let's do Jackie. So we
Okay.
have a video series called Fraud Wars. Oops.
I
It's
had
on now.
like a lump in my throat.
I don't know
and
if
a
it-
gut
though.
punch.
I don't know if we can hear it.
Can you guys hear it?
I think our tech team is working on that in the background, so hopefully.
To lead up, we do have two videos to show. This first one is from a video series we've created called Fraud Wars, and it takes maybe 11 to 12 minutes of video of first-person narrative of the victim and what had happened to them. And this one with Jackie in particular shows the emotional manipulation in just a single minute of this video, and we wanted to give you a sense of what that's like. So let's see if we can
So
try it
the
again.
question is if I push the button, we'll be able to see it this time. Let's give that a shot.
I just had like a lump in my throat, a gut punch. Oh, I had never done online dating, but I was willing to give it a try. I got on the site. I did see someone who I was like, oh my goodness, he had beautiful, like blue eyes. So I reached out and I was like, oh, I like your eyes as a compliment. He reached right back out to me. He told me that, you know, he was a widower and he had two small boys. He had lost his wife and was raising these boys. He went to great lengths to gain my trust and get my guard down. We talked at least 4 or 5 times a day. I started to think of this is someone who I could spend my life with. And then came the talk of investment. Not pushy at first, just kind of, do you know about it? I think that was 2 months after. That was when I first went and borrowed $40,000 from my 401k. Unbeknownst to me, all of the time that I'm sending money, they're sending me fake statements, thinking I'm making all this profit. I didn't find out really until June of 2024, when the realization that this was all gone, it was shock.
Okay, so that's just a powerful example. AARP, in addition to the prevention work we do in education, we also have incredible victim support resources. And quite often we will find somebody who calls our helpline, which you can call if you're a member or a non-member. It doesn't matter what age you are, to say, look, I'm not sure if this is a scam. Can you help me? You talk to a human. If you've been victimized or a loved one has, or you're concerned about them, you talk to a trained person to help you sort of figure it out. And eventually some of these folks go into these small group support sessions we have to help deal with the emotional impact of this crime. And they'll go in going, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me. I'm so stupid. I'm the only person who could fall for this. And I'm so ashamed. And they come out the other end going, okay, I'm telling my story because I'm not ashamed anymore. This was a crime. And I think telling my story is going to help other people. And that's what Jackie is.
That's the perfect stuff for this next. So we scared everybody to death because I know he scared the bejesus out of me watching all of this stuff. So why don't we move into solutions mode, right? So I know AARP is doing a lot on our side, on the ASI side. We've got commercial benefits like Norton to help to protect people, but there's also things, innovative relationships with NomoRomo and a campaign that you all have been working on as well to help get people to understand and be able to act. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so the Fraud Watch Network is parts prevention and supportive victims, and the education that we do, we just try to find everybody where they are. So we're on Facebook, we're online, we're in videos, we're on a hit podcast, The Perfect Scam, that we produce. We have thousands of volunteers around the country that are going out in person into community to spread the message of fraud prevention. But when I was talking before about like the zillions of scams, the concept that we came up with after some research is this concept of pause, reflect, protect. And I think we're going to show you an ad of that. And what's really important about this is this: if you work for a company and you do education in the space at all, we want you to use this. We want people to, use pause, reflect, protect. Maybe it can go viral and protect more people.
Yeah, okay, so hopefully, fingers crossed, we've got video here. Let's give this a shot. Yes.
Hello?
Hi there. This is Regional Power and Utility. We're calling you about an outstanding balance.
I thought I paid that.
You're scheduled for immediate shutoff unless it's resolved today. But I can help you make a payment right now.
Not today. Nice try.
Spot the red flags so you can protect yourself from fraud with the AARP Fraud Watch Network.
That's our stop, drop, and roll. And we really encourage other people to take it. We're building a page right now online so companies that want to do that can get the resources.
I love it. I'm going to move us to our next, our third area that we want to discuss, because if anybody's like me, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, what can I do as an individual? I'm sure you all are thinking, like, how do I protect myself? How do I protect my loved ones? But also, you all have the power in the products that you're building, the technology, right? Are there things that can be built in? Kathy, what would you recommend for this group, particularly from a personal or from a business perspective, that they can do?
Yeah, and I think there's something all of us can do and help our parents and kids and others understand that there are things that we can do. We referred to Doug before. He calls it hardening the target, right? So what are the things you can do that stops the scam from getting you to begin with? And, so it's closing down your social media so that only the people that you know and trust and love are connecting with you. It's using password managers and two-factor authentication. It's freezing your credit. If you don't have an imminent loan you need to take out, for example, go to annualcreditreport.com and find out these 3 companies that hold all of our credit information. Lock them down. And while your credit is locked down, nobody can open an account in your name, even you, using your stolen identity. And it's easy to lift and take back down. But I think that's a really, really important thing that all of us, especially as we're getting older and we're not buying a house and buying a car and putting kids through college.
Right.
That's a really important thing.
Absolutely.
that we do.
And something that we were talking about as well. I mean, when you're building products, particularly, if there are things that can be built in to help protect people at the spot. I was telling you, I've got a friend, I had dinner with him over the New Year's, and he's a privacy lawyer, cybersecurity, and he was saying, can you make it easy? Just make it easy for people, because that way they can protect themselves. If you can build that into your UX so that it just kind of comes along with the process, that just makes it easier for people to protect themselves.
There's so much that goes into the prevention of these scams across all the communication channels that they're using, which is everyone. If you're in any of those industries, what are the things that you're doing or can do to build layered fraud controls? The concept of having somebody get an email and think, I'm not sure if this is a scam. Let me copy and paste it and put it into this new app I have that will tell me whether it's a scam. It's a really cool concept, and I have a lot of small companies that are coming and saying they can do that, and wouldn't that be great for AARP members? But I'm like, it's a cool tool, but if that person is already going to stop and think about that, that's not the people we're most worried about. What are the technologies, what are the non-existent technologies that may exist in your brain somewhere that stops that scam from ever entering the ecosystem to begin with?
Exactly. We are just about at the Q&A section. So before we transition to that, Kathy, I didn't know if there was any parting words that you'd like to leave everybody with to think about.
Yeah, I think that all of us together have the power to do something about this. And there's a lot of things happening that make me hopeful about it. I don't want people to walk away and think that it's all doom and gloom and we can't help each other. There is research out there that says if you know about a scam, you're 80% less likely to engage with it. And so what is that going to take? That's going to take all of us talking and talking again to our kids and our parents and our networks and online and offline to talk about what is the latest scam you just heard about? What did you just read about in the AARP bulletin? And build up those defenses based on knowledge. And while the other things are happening, this can help sort of build that national conversation.
I love that. And Kathy, we're so lucky to have you leading the charge and keeping this top of mind. You think about this all day, every day. And I'm so grateful that AARP is investing time and money and that you are here. But you're right. We all will have to take a part in this as we go forward. Kathy can't come and take care of everything for us. So I think these are wonderful tips. So with that, we've got a few minutes. So if there are any questions, there's a mic over here, or you might want to go to the mic so we can hear you. And Kathy is happy to take your questions.
Hi, my name is Joseph Franco, and I own In the Cloud IT. We're a managed service provider in the Northern California area. Our main vertical is financial institutions and money managers, people of that nature, right? And what happened with us is that we have a lot of clients who have older clients who manage their money, and they invited us to come speak to them about these challenges that people are facing right now, right? And from that, we grew into doing talks at Kiwanis, at Chambers of Commerce, spreading this knowledge, right? My question is, we don't have a rubric to do this right now, right? We don't have a way to spread this knowledge easily. Is there a way or any kind of partnership that AARP has where we can tap in and be able to easily disperse this knowledge and be able to help more people?
I think that's a wonderful question, and thank you for what you're doing in that space. We do have, many fraud fighter volunteers that we train and give them presentations to go out and do in their communities. Our state offices are responsible for doing that level of work with our support. So contacting an AARP state office and saying, hey, how can we do this together would be one way, I would say, to go.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question.
Hi, my name's Rich. You said about the pause, reflect, protect. I forgot what the third one was. Sorry.
That was good.
The report side is missing to me because I'm getting calls from Bank of America. Bank of America will not call me without invitation. They'll contact you by email or on their online app, most likely. What do we do to report those and get people? Like, I just got a call this morning. I'd like to tell somebody, you feel free to call them back and figure out what they're doing and try to catch them.
That's actually not recommended to return a call or to engage on a call.
No, I want the agency to return the call.
So we have a big problem in this country. We don't have a centralized way of reporting, and forever people have said, report it to IC3, FBI for cybercrime, report it to the Federal Trade Commission. No one's really going to look at your case, but it'll help law enforcement tie cases together. That's all fine and good, but what about the victim? Mm-hmm. AARP is really involved with a program that the Aspen Institute had put together, and we launched a call for a national fraud strategy. And one of the core components of that is reporting. And for now, anybody that experiences this and there's a loss of information or money, you need to report it to local law enforcement. And if they say, we're not going to take that because we can't do anything about it, insist. Ask to talk to a manager or a detective and get that report on record. Minnesota is the first state that passed a victim restitution fund, and they just launched it like yesterday. And what do you need to prove that you were a victim? A police report.
And just as a side, is starting 20 years ago when the internet was coming on and I was making my online profiles, I never use my real birthday. Okay, and that's a good hedge because that's one of the things they need. But it's getting harder and harder because now Google's in between and other people are in between. And they say they have to have your real birthday. And if they don't have it, they get it another way anyways. So I'm finding it harder and harder to keep that information off the internet. So
yeah, I agree with you. And it's one of the things about, shutting down your social media accounts. So the privacy settings don't allow other people to get into it. But you're right. It's harder and harder.
You mentioned earlier that we could really
Yeah.
use a fraud czar in the United States.
One of the calls in the National Fraud Strategy is to create a role in government as a national fraud czar to coordinate what's happening out there that is just not coordinated right now.
Right. Looks like we're at time. I'm so sorry, but we're happy to take questions on the side. We're at 00, and I know they'll be issuing us off. Thank you all so much for attending. Really appreciate your attention and your great questions. And thank you, Kathy Stokes.
Everyone.